Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. I'm Lori, and today I'm just kind of going to do a mid-month check-in. It's the 17th of October when I'm filming this. It's a little past mid-month, but I am about to embark on a journey to Prague, and my video today was inspired by some research into popular novels that are set in Prague. And I came across a couple that were very fascinating to me. So I'm planning to add them to my list, and not necessarily all in this month, but one of them I did download from Overdrive. My library had it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the possibility of adding that to my October TBR, and just to kind of talk about what's coming up for me in terms of where I am in the middle of the month and what's calling to me to be read, and a delightful thing that happened to me yesterday. So let's get started. So let's start with the delightful thing. I did a video a while back about the creative books that I love the most, and one of them was a book called Craft a Life You Love by Amy Tangerine. And in that video, I mentioned that I had lost that book. I had no idea what happened to it, and it was very distressing to me because I really enjoyed it, and I thought about halfway through. Well, last night I went to our storage facility to get some sweaters out because it is cooler in Prague than it is here. Although today we had this morning our high to begin the day was 55. We're going to get to 72, but it is really pretty here. But it's about 10 to 15 degrees cooler in Prague right now than it is here. So I got some sweaters out of the storage facility. I found a bin of magazines, creative magazines that I had, and look what was in it. I'm so excited. Now, I was about, I would say, halfway through. I can't wait to start again. However, I made a vow multiple times to myself. I have made a vow not to bring any physical books in my suitcases or carry-on to Prague because I often bring way too many. I don't get them read. They're very heavy, and I don't like carting heavy luggage around at all. So now I feel like I need to honor that promise to myself. I even wrote it in my planner. You're not bringing any physical books or your laptop, because a lot of times that happens too. I bring the laptop, it's kind of heavy, even though it's a MacBook Air, and I don't do anything with it. So I'm going to try really, really hard not to bring this book with me, even though it's so small and light. We'll see how I do. I'll let you know when I get back how that happens. But if you've never seen that video, Craft a Life You Love is just a delightful little book by Amy Tangerine, who is a design artist. She's a scrapbooker. She does a lot of YouTube videos. She's designed paper lines and t-shirts, and she's just fantastic. And she really just talks about adding creativity into your everyday life. In fact, the subtitle is 25 Practices for Infusing Creativity, Fun, and Intention into Your Everyday. So there's exercises in the book for you to complete. She has just some nicely designed, scripted reminders for you. I just love it. And I've done a lot of the exercises. Apparently I didn't do that one, but I have done a lot of the exercises so far. Great things never come from comfort zones. I love it. Amy also has a podcast now called Craft a Life You Love, and I love it as well. So maybe in exchange for not bringing the physical book with me, I'll listen to some of the podcast episodes. Now let's get to some of the books I have discovered that are set in Prague, or at least partly in Prague. And the first one that I discovered and already downloaded on Overdrive is A Prague Cemetery by Umberto Eco. Sorry, it's The Prague Cemetery by Umberto Eco. Now, I did not read In the Name of the Rose, but it's one of my favorite films ever. Umberto Eco is a great writer, and the books he writes are usually pretty detailed and dense, but they're historically so captivating. And I have really been intimidated by In the Name of the Rose and some others written by him because of their sheer size and detail. In years past, I really didn't have the mind capacity to dig into some of those books for not always, but just for a few years there. And I think it was work related. I think it was stress related. I think it was also a mindset that I had created for myself that isn't actually true. Nevertheless, I took a break from bigger, denser books for a while, and lately they have been calling me. So I have downloaded this in ebook form. It's about 420 so pages, I think, so it's not as large as some of the others. And it is set in Italy, France, and then in Prague. And apparently um, it is based on in the old Jewish cemetery in Prague. So the history of this book is that a woman named Simone Simonini gets caught up in some sort of a plot. It's a social reform plot, and it involves Alexandra Dumas and Napoleon III and Saint Therese. And so it's obviously set in the 19th century. It's very historic, and it talks about the 19th century anti-Semitic characters and the infamous Protocols of the Elders of Zion manuscript, a fake but historically real document that was supposed to show the secret Jewish plot for world domination. And the plot ends up in this famous cemetery in Prague. And it just sounds so fascinating. And of all the ones that I'm going to talk about today, this is the one that I thought, oh gosh, I really want to put this on my list, and sooner rather than later. So I'm doing pretty well with my Spookathon TBR. I'm doing pretty well with my October TBR. And so I'll just see what happens. It's a long flight to Prague. It's a long flight up. Next book I want to take a look at is The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. I may be pronouncing that wrong. This one's been on my radar for a while. I've known about it for a long time, but I didn't really think about reading it until this journey to Prague. This follows characters in the time of what's known as the Prague Spring, which was a period of about 9 to 10 months when Czechoslovakia tried to break away from the Soviet Union. And it takes place in that period of time, and it is a really intense look at that particular city and what was happening when people were seeking freedom and other people were seeking to stop that attempt to seek freedom. And I've heard that it is lovely. It's also been made into a movie. There's an adaptation starring Daniel Day-Lewis and Juliette Binoche, and I've never watched the movie either. So because of this opportunity for me to go over there and work and play a little bit, I'm going to pop this onto my want to read TBR, and I will let you know when that happens. The next book that fascinates me is The Golem by Gustav Meinrich. Some of these authors' names I'm probably really butchering, but this is written in 1914, and it tells the story of a jeweler in the ghetto in Prague, with the Jewish ghetto, and the golem is a mythical Jewish creature. Let me just read you this. It would just be easier. This 1914 novel tells the story of a jeweler living in the ghetto of Prague. While not real, the golem, a mythical Jewish creature created of mud, is important in the book not because of what he does, but because of what he represents, the spirit of a community suffering through the centuries. Because the main character is suffering from mental instability, the entire story reads like a convoluted dream where Pernas adventures mix with things around them in a sometimes illogical sequence, all the while showing readers the reality of living in Prague in the early 20th century. Sounds fascinating to me. So a bit of a fantasy mixed in with reality and mixed in with the sort of the understanding of what was going on in that particular time. And I do plan to go through the Jewish ghetto while I'm there, so um, it's very compelling to me to take notes while I'm there and think about that, and then come back and read this book. A Perfect Spy by Jean Le Carré is on my list. I have read one of Jean Le Carré's books years ago. I don't even recall which one it was, but they were very good. Nice spy thrillers, which I really appreciate. And this one follows a character named Magnus Pym who disappears. And it looks now as he's disappeared and people are trying to find